Doug, we're live, sir.
Good morning, Rich. How are you?
Better than I deserve, that's for sure.
Yes, sir.
We all. While we're waiting for folks to jump on, I might as well go ahead and get the preliminaries out of the way. My name is Rich Brown, retired Marine Corps officer, former police officer, corrections officer, special operations officer, and this morning I'm joined by one of my oldest friends, Doug Rines. Doug is one of those guys that I may not have seen him in years, but he could pull up today and I'd throw him keys to my house and say, lock up whenever you're done. We're going out of the country. He's just that kind of person. So I'll read his bio real quick. Doug Rines served for 23 years as a United States Marine, achieving the rank of Sergeant Major before retiring. Doug deployed to the Ukraine in 2003 to train the Ukrainian Army in mobility, counter-mobility, and survivability. He then deployed to Fallujah, Iraq in 2005, and back in Iraq in 2008, and later to Kabul, Afghanistan, in support of countrywide military and police training. In 2013, Doug began a new career path as a private security contractor in Afghanistan, where he was responsible for vetting, hiring, and training Afghans in base security. After that contract, Doug worked as a project manager over security, construction, and vehicle maintenance contracts in Iraq and Afghanistan for over 3 years. Doug has spent the last 10 plus years as a project manager in the solar farm industry, managing projects in the U.S. Virgin Islands and around the U.S. Additionally, Doug has worked on civilian projects in Brazil, England, India, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Sergeant Major Rines completed various military schools and training during his career and holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Technology and a Master's in Organizational Management. That's a lot of stuff, brother. You've been busy.
It took me a lifetime to fill one page of accomplishments. Mm-hmm. But, I sat down one time, no kidding, it's been about a year ago, and listed all my failures, and I filled up 3 pages with that. So don't let one page of accomplishments fool you. It's there's a lot of hard knocks that went in between.
Boy, I tell you, that is a fact. And I tried when I wrote my little memoir. There's something I always want to do as a passion project, vanity project, call it what you will. On Violence and Bridles, wherever you buy books, go spend some of your damn money, buy my book. But anyway, all right. Not talking to you, Doug. I'm talking to everybody that's going to be listening. But what I'm getting at is I tried to do a warts and all approach, getting NJP'd, something embarrassing, losing a stripe, failing at many things in life. And I don't think you do anybody justice unless you tell the whole story. If not, they just see the sanitized, made for TV version of you. And this is not, I know that's not reality.
Right. Men have a lot of scars, and that's who we are. And I think it was Freud that said, through all the hardships later on in life, we look back at it as our greatest times.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, when you think about like when you and I were together in Delta Company, some of the greatest times I remember were in the field where we were cold or hungry, or we went on a boots and utes run that shouldn't have happened because it was along the side of an interstate or something stupid. It was always those moments that you remember, not the time that we got, they sent us, Burger King in the field. How sweet is this?
Yeah. It's shared misery is when it seems like you bond the best.
That's exactly right. Let's welcome some folks onto the show. We got 9 so far. Derek is on. It says good morning from North Carolina. Alan is on from Triple Occupied Virginia. Jeff Brown is on. Good morning, everyone. Hope all are doing well. Nice to see you, Doug.
Jeff.
James is on from Massachusetts. Bruce is on from Michigan. Bruce is a coin member of our American Warrior Society. Is coin number 481. James is coin number 1702. If you want to find out if becoming a coin member is a good decision for you and your family and in these weird times, and I would highly encourage you to check out the links in today's show notes. Kyle is on from the Philippines. John Shriver is on from Yukon, Oklahoma. Cruz is on Super 5, brother. We got a Sergeant Major on this morning, Cruz. He is Cruz, of course, is coin number 1928 up in Rhode Island. I entitled this, and this is just so everyone's clear, we're literally reshooting what should have been Friday's show. We had some technical difficulties. I take full responsibility for it because, this is something that I normally used to do back in the day. We would do a tech check. We didn't. We rolled with it, and now we're going to make up for it. So this will be a much better show. I promise you. Doug is a fantastic guest. I don't want to lose anything in the translation. So we got a slideshow for you this morning as well to show you some stuff that Doug and his Marines got into in Fallujah, kind of based on what we talked about last week, right, Doug?
Yes, that is correct. I say my claim to fame in my deployment was finding the largest weapons cache in OIF, and wanted to share some pictures with the audience and just how it was discovered. We were sent on a mission to leave the city of Fallujah. What our AO was the south of Fallujah. Fallujah was cut in half by an MSR, east to west, and we had the southern portion of that with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines. Well, a little bit later in the deployment, we were tasked to go outside the city of Fallujah, go about 30 miles south into a little town. We called it Ferris Town because it had a Ferris wheel in it, and it was a town built by the Koreans, and they worked in the weapons factories. And upon or prior to the invasion of Iraq, they decided it was best for them to leave and go back to Korea, and they left it, and it became squatters' rights. So we went down, did a little mission there to check things out on some intel. But on the way back, we had a small piece of intelligence that they were hiding a weapons cache out at these 3 or 4 houses out in the desert. And they had burned a 360 perimeter around these 3 or 4 houses and a mosque, so you couldn't see it from the road about a half a mile away. It just looked like horizon. So we went out and visited the elder. There were a couple of families there. There were kids running around. They started making chai tea for us. Everything seemed normal. The Army knew we were going into their AO to conduct this, recon search. They told us, hey, nothing's going on there. We've been there 3 or 4 times. Everything's cool. So we roll in. It seems to be the case. Everybody's nice. It's normal families doing normal family things. One of our guys was trying to recalibrate his ground penetrating radar. We used 2 methods of detecting IEDs at that point of the war, was just your metal detector and a newer ground penetrating radar. So anyway, you've got to take your time with the ground penetrating radar and calibrate it before you start using it. So he couldn't get it calibrated, and we were about to start packing up, and a guy with a shovel come over and said, hey, let's see if there's some metal around here. And he goes down about 2 or 3 inches of sand and pings a 155 artillery round. So we shut it down from there, separated the men and the women, started investigating, and just broke out all the metal detectors, mine detectors. And these things were not buried in one hole. These things were, I don't know if your viewers have ever seen that old movie called Holes. It was one of my children's favorite movies years ago, where the kids go around the desert looking for the treasure, and there's holes everywhere. Well, when we were done, that's kind of what it looked like. There was about probably 30 different burial sites around their property and on the outside of the berm of their property. So as we would dig these up, it got so big and got so fast that 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines sent us the Iraqi Army down to do all the legwork. As we would mark it, they would dig it up, uncover it. As we uncovered it, we brought it to a central location on the property. We inventoried it. Once it was inventoried, then we put it back in to a larger hole that we had to have some engineers come down with heavy equipment and start digging us a few holes that we could blow this up in.
Hey, so Doug, this is this photo here. Is this one of the pits that you put the stuff in?
Yeah, now that's as we've started right there. And now we've, I think we're standing around thinking, it's kind of like that, what was that line off of Jaws? You're going to need a bigger boat. I think we're standing around the hole saying, we're going to need a bigger hole here. And that's what we're doing.
And there's you right there with I would imagine, Iraqi counterpart, or who?
Yeah, that's our interpreter right there. Okay. And this is, we found on the property, there was a small garage. And it was a typical, garage, had some stuff in it. But as we were walking across the floor, we could feel the floor was hollow. It was concrete, but you could tell it was hollow. So we busted a hole in the floor, shine a light down there, and we know there's something down there. So we pulled everything out of the garage, find the trap door, and we go down. Now, the trap door you're looking at here, this is a Connex box buried outside in the sand. Now, they would capture, this is where they would hold them out. It was a Connex box completely buried. You couldn't see it. But we found it obviously with the metal detector. So that's where they would keep any prisoners. This is the entrance into the entrance from the garage down into the IED factory. So this guy was down there. You see his little headlamp on the left as he's going down his makeshift stairs. And he goes down and he's got 155 rounds down there. And he's taking, I'm not an artillery guy, but he's taking the, I think it's the booster out of the tip of the round. He's packing that with a C4 equivalent. And he's got Russian det cord and blasting caps. And he's got various different firing devices to initiate these. And they're all sitting down there. And he had maps of Ramadi, Fallujah with GPS that the GPS we tracked. It was an American GPS. We tracked it back to the cell at Camp Fallujah, or the intel guys did. But yeah, he had exact street locations of where he wanted these IEDs in Fallujah and Ramadi. So once we uncovered this, disassembled everything and destroyed it, IED attacks in Ramadi and Fallujah took a nosedive. So I believe we saved a lot of lives. This is our first shot in the pit. This is a 20,000 pound shot. We had a standoff of just at around 3 miles. Wow. Is how far we backed off on this, and so that's a. You
said that's shot. A 20,000 pound shot.
That's a 20,000 pound shot right there.
Jeez, that's insane. It'll rattle your teeth right there. I would imagine this is part of one of the weapons caches you all found.
Yeah. Now this he held a lot of weapons. There was a lot of Dragunov sniper rifles that he would pass out, and you can see some AKs in there. Now there is. My glasses here and see there is a Browning 30 millimeter machine gun, and I believe it's the one there on the left going toward
I see
back.
It. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah. Now we kept that Browning. We didn't obviously we couldn't keep it to bring it home, but we kept it and brought it back to our compound because it's an American made weapon. We cleaned it up. Man, it was sharp. But we actually sat down, we reached out to Browning through some internet search and an email, and they were pretty pumped to hear about it. So they had some representatives in the Middle East, and they sent a guy out, and we met him up at Camp Fallujah one day, and we returned that back to Browning. The best that they could tell us the last time it was through the serial number trace, it belonged to an American unit in World War II. So
ain't that crazy?
Yeah, it's insane how stuff gets captured and then it's on the black market, and this gets moved around and sold over the years. I'm sure it's a very, very interesting story of how it got there. But this is how we are laying out. We've got more rounds laid out there. We've got. Let's see.
Rockets, looks like.
Rockets. Yeah. We're laying, this is
RPGs.
everything we're laying out to inventory. Now, all this was buried in the ground. And so like I said, this took us almost a week to uncover everything, get it organized, inventory it, and blow it. So
now were y'all doing that, or was EOD?
EOD came out to assist at first, but they were so busy. The rule was while we were there in our AO anyway, that they allowed us to blow anything a 155 or below if we found it. Anything above that, or if we needed assistance, they would come out and have. But they were so busy and so overstretched that we just came to a gentleman's agreement that this is what we would do. Now, one thing we did before we blew it is if we could, if it wasn't all the way primed in, we would pull the firing device and make sure Intel got that. Quick story about that. When we first got there, it was command detonated. We set up security elements that would push out in front of us to scare off the IED initiator when he was using command detonation. Mm-hmm. Then it went into remote, and we had to start determining what frequencies we were using. And so then they purchased jammers for the Humvees. Well, it jammed certain frequencies. Well, once they figured out what frequencies we were jamming, then they found something that would work outside of that frequency range. So it was a constant game of cat and mouse. So it was very important for us to try to save or get the firing device and get it back to Intel so they could determine how we're going to counteract that and mitigate the damage.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, I'm speaking with a very old friend of mine, Sergeant Major Doug Rines, retired, and we are going to discuss kind of Doug's path from Fallujah, to farming, as I labeled the show. But let's jump back in time a little bit, and we'll pause on Fallujah because there's just so much more to talk about it. This largest weapons cache you guys ever had. I want to kind of start with, I believe you went to college, you played baseball at Tennessee Tech University. Is that correct?
Yes, I was an asset to the team there.
I have no doubt, Doug.
My asset on the bench.
And then you joined the Marine Corps, where I met you in Delta Company, 4th Combat Engineer Battalion. I had already gotten out of the infantry. I was home. I was a police officer. And I had first, we talked about this last show, so I got to bring it up now because this is the one that's actually going to be out there. I was platoon commander, and you first platoon, and you were platoon commander of 2nd or 3rd. I don't remember which one.
Yes, I believe it was 3rd. And then prior to that, don't forget that I was your platoon sergeant.
That's right.
And training under you. And I always say there's a handful of Marines that really, really mentored me to become a successful Marine that I was able to. And
would I know any of those guys?
You may, but you every time you look in the mirror, you're looking at one of them. And Rich's his leadership development was very essential for me to grow, not only as a Marine, but as a person, as a man. And definitely it put me in the right place for my life.
Well, iron sharpens iron, my friend. And,
yes,
I was like, why is Doug a platoon sergeant? This dude needs his own freaking platoon. And people may be hearing this going, what? 2 staff sergeants had their own, were platoon commanders. Yeah, because we had we had a company commander, and I think an H&S company lieutenant or captain, and the rest of the officer duties were handled by, you and I and a couple other guys.
Yes.
Which to get those fitness reports really, as a platoon commander, fitness report, it carries a lot of weight with the promotion boards and stuff like that, which is probably why you and I did really well with rank, along the way.
Yes.
And it was, I really appreciate the company commander for all his faults, giving us those opportunities to lead and stuff like that. It was I really appreciate that because we all grew in those times.
Yeah, a lot of lumps along the way.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so you go to Ukraine in 2003. Talk me through that, man, because that was, we just did the invasion with Iraq around that time. I was at the basic school in 2003, man. It's funny, as a brand new chief warrant officer, and we invaded Iraq while I was in school, and everybody in Quantico was like, "Oh my God, we're going to miss the war," And I just like, hey, relax. This is the
It's going
start
to
of,
be
of something really long. I promise you, it's going to be there for you. But they were chomping at the bit to graduate and get out there, man. So you guys go off to Ukraine. What was that like, and what was that about?
okay. Ukraine is not going to participate in Iraq. They're going to be in Afghanistan with ISAF community being part of that conflict, and they're going to be tasked with demining since a lot of their people have history in Afghanistan when they were part of Russia. So we went over to teach mobility, counter mobility, survivability to the Ukrainian soldiers, but basically it was demining was the focus. So we go back and like I tell people, once we got there, it was really like taking a step back in time, almost 50 years. Just the modes of transportation, the way the architecture, how just things have not been updated. I'm talking even as far as paint, fresh coat of paint. It was really like taking a step back in time. Now, once we stayed in Kiev a little while, but then I can't remember the name of the base and the town, but it was down by the Black Sea, and we took an old train ride down there that was interesting, and we had a really good time. They were very receptive in the training because they knew they were getting ready to put hands-on practical application in it in Afghanistan right after we left. So the young Ukrainian soldiers were very receptive. They were very eager to learn it. They had basic equipment. We brought our metal detector and the new ground penetrating radar. I think that they were going to be supplied just with a metal detector, the U.S. metal detector to use in Afghanistan. I think we were going to supply them with that as a country. And so we taught them up, spun them up on that. And basically we went back to demining 101, like you picked up at Courthouse Bay at engineer school. So that was a great experience to teach them. The officers, the older guys, these guys were actually, most of them were old Russian officers, and very leery of us Americans there. I mean, you just see how they would just look at you, and they were kind of standoffish. I don't think the trust was quite there yet, but they were all of them. All the older guys were pickled up. Tell the story. No kidding. Every morning at breakfast, you had to do 3 shots of vodka with them. And the third shot is always to the women. So you did 3 shots of vodka at breakfast. You go to lunch, same thing. You do 3 shots of vodka. Last one's to the women. At night, for dinner, 3 shots of vodka. Third one's to the ladies. And then it continues more than 3 shots after dinner. So it was a hard couple of mornings there a few times for us, but yeah, it was very smooth vodka. That's what they say about Russian vodka. It's very, very smooth. I see why they drink it all the time too. So it was a good life experience. Another just to add on, we had official passports to come into Kiev. So obviously that's registered with the State Department and everything. So the Marines at the embassy in Kiev, they were like, "Hey man, since you guys are coming over, you're going to be actually leaving the country right around the 1st of November. Bring your dress blues. You're going to the Marine Corps birthday ball at the embassy in Kiev." And so we did. There was a handful of us that were on this mission, and that was probably one of the greatest balls I've ever been to. It was because it's a small contingency of Marines at an embassy, and then add a few more into the mix. And this party was huge, and the Marines were catered to, and I got to meet the ambassador. I got to meet the several other dignitaries from other countries there, and it was a great time. We had a blast.
I bet, man. What a great experience. Michael is on. Ted is on in Mississippi. He's coin number 1461. Ed is on. Says brings back many memories. Coin number 2062. Razmik is on. Good morning. He says good morning, Rich and Doug. Glad to have you on the show, sir. So fast forward. The first time you went to Iraq, was it 2005?
Yes.
It's 2005 was a really difficult year for. I mean, all the 7 friends I lost were all lost in 2005. All of them, and I say friends. 3 of them were young men. I put in the Marine Corps, which is another really emotional tragedy for me personally, because you knew these people. I knew these young men in high school. You mentored them. You get them to recruit training. You write them letters while they're in boot camp. You bring them back and work with them on boot leave, and you get to know their mom and dad and all this stuff. And then to have them get killed, it's just, it's a real hard pain. It's like a father, losing a child almost. It really is tough. I say all that to say 2005 is a rough time to be rolling into Iraq, my friend.
Yes, it was. Now the Battle of Fallujah was just the year prior, or we had just missed Operation Phantom Fury by a couple months, but once we got there, it really wasn't any much safer than it was prior to. The IED attacks were probably the heaviest during 2005 because
Doug, that's what and I'm so sorry to interrupt you, man.
No.
But this is exactly why I meant to lead with it, and I screwed up. I got emotional thinking about some of the guys. Well, my point of saying all that was to say, of the 7 Marines that I cared very much for that lost their lives, all but 1 died from ID. Only 1 died from small arms fire, and it was actually in Fallujah. Huh. Everybody else was killed by an ID. And so I think that speaks to just why it's so important what you and your Marines did. And here's another, for those joining us late, here's another one of the many things that you guys pulled out of the ground and saved thousands of lives, not just Marines, but all
civilians,
all kinds of, everybody, you name it. There's little kids in Iraq that have limbs because of what you guys did.
Yes, it's when you talk about, even in the industry, when you talk about safety, you never know how many accidents you prevent in a workplace by setting up a safety program. Same thing when finding the IEDs and then finding the source, which is the most important, where it's supplied and where they're made and manufactured. Once we found that, it's hard to put a number down on that. This is the little hole right here going down into the guy's IED factory under his garage. That's how. And
if you're listening to us, I apologize if you're driving along in your truck months from now after we record it and you're like, I don't know what they're referencing. I'm going to make a downloadable PDF so you can find that on AmericanWarriorShow.com. When you search this episode with Sergeant Major Rines, you'll be able to download this, but you can also watch it on YouTube. We'll also have a link to that as well. So don't feel like you're missing out. We'll try to be as descriptive as we can with our language. Right, Doug?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but that's the whole year. That was the one in the garage you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that's the one in the garage right there. That underneath that was his IED factory.
Jesus. I mean, they don't think the enemy's stupid, man. The enemy always gets a vote.
No, they were very cunning. Like I said, it was once we would counteract the way that they initiated the IED, within days they had a new firing system. That's down inside his little IED factory. That's underneath his garage right there. You can see the weapons down there. That's Chris Robinson, my staff sergeant at the time. And it's dragging off a sniper rifle. Now, if you look to the right in those photos, you're going to see some suitcases. I think you could see them. And we were looking, once we got down there, it was myself, Brian Mullins, and Chris Robinson. We went down in there first, and we're looking at those suitcases, and we're beginning to wonder, is there a couple $1 million in these suitcases right here? What's the ethical thing that we're going to have to decide on if we open those and there's massive amounts of American dollars in there? But anyway, we didn't have to worry about it. We opened them up and it was propaganda. posters and things
But
like
you know, earlier, Doug, you mentioned you guys found a 30 caliber Browning from World War II. I'm
Yes.
looking in this pile of munitions here, and there's a German Mauser from World War II.
Yes, there
I mean,
is.
it's just I don't know if that's a Bangalore torpedo. I can't tell what that long thing is. No, it's not a Bangalore. What is that?
I would have to, I'd have to
Yeah.
pull that picture up and really zoom in and look on it. And I
Well,
have to go back through my notebook from the time too. I wrote a lot of things down.
you mentioned Brian Mullins. Let's talk about him after the show.
Okay.
Good friend of ours back in the day. Look at that optic on the front of that.
Yes, those are the missiles that we were told do not destroy. That somebody will come by and pick those up for you. So we
Is
had
that the
an
surface air
unmarked.
missiles right there, Doug, that we talked about last show?
Yes, I'm not an air guy, so I don't know a lot about that. I just know once because we had a means while we were out there of communicating not only by radio but by through a secured means of being able to send pictures back to 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, TOC, the Tactical Operations Center. And once they got those pictures, what you're looking at right here, they gave us the immediate order: do not destroy these. These need to be traced on how they were sold, and try to be traced on how they got into the hands of the Iraqi people. So, long story short, an unmarked helicopter flies in, a couple of guys in jumpsuits hop out that have no markings, no patches. They pick up a few crates of these weapons and off they go. So that's the last we heard about that.
And if you can see you obviously got the seeking eye optic on the front. How good these would be after being buried in the sand for God knows how long, who knows? Probably not much, but especially you can see the little rocket motor fins on the back of this one, just to the right of. So, but the problem is, and Doug and I talked about this previous show that did not get to air, was there's like 48,000 man pads, surface to air missiles that could shoot down, not just F-15s and Su-29s, but it can shoot down, a Southwest Airlines flight over Toledo tomorrow,
Yes.
So that's what scares the crap out of me with, like Doug was saying, these surface to air missiles that are out there on the black market for sale. So I thank God our intelligence community is tracking this down, and because this stuff scares the crap out of me. It doesn't, there's some really good fictional books out there about these things being snuck up through Mexico and coyoted into the interior of the U.S. and then used to shoot down domestic flights. And that should scare all of us.
And that's exactly how they get their hands on them. Because a lot of people are like, there's no way that can happen. You can't get your hands on that kind of stuff. Well, I've got pictures to prove that it's there and it can be on the black market. And with enough money, you can move those things and get them in your hands.
Yeah. Speaking of getting them in your hands, are these mines, Doug? Is that what I'm looking at here?
Yes, those are mines. I can't remember what country those were. It was probably on the box. But yeah, those are mines. I think in another picture, maybe coming up, there was some with some anti-personnel mines, much smaller than that, what we would call toe poppers. That would just take about half your foot off right there. But yeah, those are definitely mines right there.
Yeah. Donald says, I spent 22 years in the military, did nothing cool. I hear you, brother. Ed said, so you read The Gray Man. I think it was, maybe it was Dalton Fury book. I don't know, but it just, that is really terrifying to me. And I think what we've started in Iran is not going to be over anytime soon. And I think it could go regional, if not worldwide. And you never know where the Biden administration that let in, untold number of potential terrorists. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but it nothing good probably.
No, not at all.
No. So here's some more of the ordnance. These appear to be RPG rounds, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes. And you can see how many, how many attacks right there, just laying right there in the ground, ready to be fired. So that's that many attacks through the Sunni Triangle that were averted.
Now, what did you guys get any kind of recognition for this cache? I mean,
Initially, no, nothing. You know how the Marine Corps is. It's
that's where I was going with all that.
Yeah, you're just doing your job. So I pushed to get every Marine in my platoon a CertCom. They agreed. Took it to the battalion commander and sergeant major, and I was a gunny at the time as platoon sergeant. And I said, "Hey, this is a big deal. This is really big." And they did. They recognized it was a big deal. 3-shop was like, hell, I'd give everybody a NAM if we could.
Yeah.
But taking it to the battalion commander, because I wanted to make sure we walked out of that deployment with everybody, sergeants and above who rated fit reps, had that meritorious fit rep checked in the box for a combat deployment. So everybody got a meritorious, not a meritorious, a certificate of commendation.
Which, I mean, you get a CertCom on recruiting if you put in like 3 people,
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, and yet you do this and like, hey, here's your CertCom.
And that's why I said it's to get in if we were in the Army, I think I would probably get the Bronze Star, and the rest of the platoon would probably have Army comms or something like that.
Without question.
Offense, guys out there in the Army, sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's just the way it works in our world over on our side.
And I said after Desert Storm, the division, 2nd Marine Division, put together an awards thing so they could sort it out. And I remember driving my company commander over there and sitting in and watching how these senior officers decide who's going to get what medal. And this corpsman I knew had, as we were clearing the minefields and clearing bunkers, this one Marine, he gets frag, and I believe it was a friendly fire frag. But the corpsman goes running out under fire because already rounds are dropping, grabs Sergeant Rhett, giant African-American Marine, and runs him back through the minefield, throws him on the hood of a Humvee, starts cutting off his mop gear, treats the wounds, gets him back, everything, just heroic stuff, right? And they put him in for a Bronze Star, and my company commander goes, I don't understand this. He did his freaking job. Did he get paid that month? Did he get paid? And everybody's like, well, yeah, but I mean, that's, he ran through a minefield under fire and carried this Marine and all of his kit back and triaged him and got him back. That's his job. He's a corpsman, right? And I mean, everybody was just like, yeah. So he got nothing.
Yeah.
And I think people lose sight. It depends on where you are, who your leadership is, what branch of service you in, whether that branch of service is trying to build a brand, as some have done. But the Marine Corps, man, no.
I'll give you another good story real quick. When we were in Afghanistan, we were working for ISAF. So even though we were under Marine Command, ultimately we fall, I think we had ultimately like a French general over there. So at the end of, we're training the police teams and the Army teams, military teams, MIT and PIT team training, and we're spread all the way across Afghanistan in every province. Our company, our infantry company, is spread in small groups all over Afghanistan. Well, at the end of the tour, the commanding officer and I are sitting down deciding who we're going to submit awards for, things like that. Well, the ISAF command comes to us and says, everybody gets an award. So what do you mean? And they said, everybody gets a personal award. Everybody? Yes, everybody. So we send that back up to our Marine Command saying, hey, this is what we're instructed to do by a very high ranking officer. And the Marine Corps was like, no, you're not going to do it. Because the Army units that were kind of doing the same thing they were doing, every one of their guys walked away with at least a Army Achievement Medal, minimum.
Yeah.
Walking out a theater, no matter what they did, minimum. That's what they walked out with. And so they were telling us, yeah, you've got to do the same thing. And the Marine Corps was like, no, that's not going to happen. And for those out there listening, even if you get awarded something, let's say you're attached to an Army unit, and the Army says, hey, Marine, you did a great job. We're going to give you an Army comm. Here you go, brother. Wear it proudly. That Army comm cannot be worn in a Marine Corps uniform unless it meets the standards of the Marine Corps for it to be awarded. So like if they were just giving out Army, I'm just saying this, not meaning any offense, but if they were just giving them out minimal write-up in the description, if that doesn't meet the Marine Corps standard, you can display it at home, but you can't put it on your uniform. So that's just another crazy thing in Marine Corps award system. But so if you see a Marine that's highly decorated, it's probably pretty special because they're
Probably earned, yeah.
Few and far between.
I remember there was an article came in before the GWAT, and it was like the Marine with the most amount of combat gold stars on his combat action ribbon. So this is, again, pre-global war on terror.
Yeah.
And there was a master gunny who had, I think it was like 5 gold stars on his combat action ribbon.
Okay.
And he was a master gunnery sergeant. He was wings and bubble. A lot of his stuff had been done with some spooky units down in El Salvador, Nicaragua, earning combat action ribbons when the rest of us had no idea anything like that was going on. And he had, beyond the combat action ribbon, he had 1 Navy Achievement Medal and I think 1 Navy comm for some administration. No Valorous awards. And I'm like, what a crock of crap, man. Yeah. You know damn well he did something valorous in one of those things. And it's just, that's the Marine Corps, buddy.
Yeah.
Period, full stop.
But, it's like it or not, it's consistent across the board.
Very
so it's
consistent.
not like one unit is giving it away like Halloween candy and another unit not. It's consistent across the board. So if you see Marines that are decorated, hey, it's they're pretty good dudes and ladies.
Yeah. And it says in 2005 I was on FOBS and the battalion commander stated that all got Army comms. Yeah, that would never happen in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Ever happen. And like I said, it's standard across the board, which is good for promotion purposes because it's not like, well, if you were in 6 Marines, everybody's getting all this candy. Promise you that will never happen.
Yeah.
What's going on in this photo, Doug?
Okay, now this picture is not part of that cache that we found. This picture is actual IED on the side of a road. This is an MSR coming in from the south into Fallujah. This is just right outside the city, maybe a couple hundred yards outside of the what you would think the city of Fallujah looks like. Say this is kind of going out toward the farmland. We started a patrol. We are always on foot. The vehicles are in trail behind us with 50 cows, Mark 19s, 240 Golfs as our security elements. We're just walking along the side of the road with the metal detectors, and you can see here the first item is a pot of explosive. It's homemade. And you see the red Russian det cord that we are rolling up that we've cut that is connected to 3 or 4 South African 155s in trace that were daisy chained there. So that could destroy probably 2, maybe 3 vehicles right there. Definitely destroy a whole foot patrol. Now, this was actually wired in. So if you look at that front explosive there, the pot, that was one with the blasting cap on it. That we traced the wire back off the side of the road to your left. If you're looking at that picture, down into some weeds. Cell phone was buried into an ammo can. Ammo can was buried into the ground with the antenna sticking out of the hole of the ammo can. So it was ready. It was ready to roll. right there
And,
when we found it. So
and just to give you guys that don't Obla 155 rounds, these are, so they got a lethality radius of 50 meters per round, and then
yes,
they can cause casualties out to 150 meters. So,
yes.
like Doug said, I mean, each one of these would just shred a Humvee and kill any Marine, or sailor inside of it. And that wasn't worthy of. You did your job.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
did your job. Thanks for coming out. Here's some grenades. One of the boxes buried. I have some more detailed photos that I'd like to email you to, because we were taking pictures of the outside of the boxes because on the outside of the boxes, it's got the country that they were coming from, just plainly stamped on the box. So you saw a lot of stuff coming from around the globe in there. That's us before the very first shot. That's the 20,000 pounder right there. It's laced in. It's got C4 connected, woven about 3 or 4 layers deep as we packed it on top of each other. So yeah, that's the big boy right there. And you can see in the background, those are the houses. Just a handful of houses with a mosque. Not a big sprawling area. It was very very private. Now the story we got because you're probably thinking, well, how did they get their hands on all this munition? And again, that's the first 20,000 pound shot. We did 2 of them. So that's half of what we found right there. And that hole is about 5-6 feet deep. And so you can see by the size of us how wide and how long that hole is. So how does, this guy out in the middle of nowhere get his hands on this type of munitions? Well, the story we got was right before the invasion of Iraq. Saddam opens up a lot of his ASPs, his ammunition supply points, for key leaders and terrorists and such to go in, get what they need to fight the infidel. So this guy was supposedly, this guy here in the village or his little area was tied in with al-Zarqawi. It was a story we got. And that is how he was able to get a hold of so much munitions. And he stored those, carefully buried them and plotted them at his home and around his home, and used them as he saw fit. In Fallujah, Ramadi, basically the Sunni Triangle is where this stuff was. Now that's a good picture of the hole right there to give it more perspective as we're filling it up.
That's insane. I mean, you and I did some demo shoots back when we were in Delta Company together. It was
nothing like that, man.
Let me tell you something, folks. It was nothing like this.
If you're an engineer, you know what P stands for. P for plenty. When calculating your explosive, there's plenty right there. So, and you can see if you look in on the picture when you get a chance to go to Rich's website, just kind of zoom in on the picture, and you can see the various different types of items in there.
I can't say it enough, man. Like, how many lives are saved just looking at this freaking amazing picture here? And they got a certificate of accommodation. It's a piece of paper, and it's the lowest form of like award that you can possibly get. There's like certain meritorious mass, and it slowly ratchets up, and maybe you get a Navy achievement medal. Ooh. So this is the fact that this is what y'all found. This is what you did by your hard work and taking the extra steps, and it was worthy of nothing more than a piece of paper. Is pretty sad.
Well, not only the lives saved, but how much money was taken out as well.
Millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, because how much is that worth in that hole right there? And the sale of it to continue to fund terrorist activities was cut as well. So there's a lot of training dollars taken off the table right there, if you look at it that way.
Another thing too, Doug, is let's say y'all hadn't found it, but the Army had been there, you guys had been there. Maybe they're like, you know what? It's getting too hot here, guys. Eventually they're going to find it. Let's truck this shit out of here at night, one night. And then it would have ended up on some other battlefield that our kids or grandkids could get killed on. This is just, I'm going to spend most of today's show. There's so much I want to talk to you about. We're going to focus down on Fallujah in this moment in time. I have a whole series of things I want to talk to you relative to mobility and counter mobility, of how people can use that in their own personal life to make them and their family safer. I'm gonna hope Doug comes back and we'll talk about that. Right now, we're going to talk about the bravery of what his Marines did, because it's an unwritten story in the Marine Corps and it needs its day. Really does.
Now, if you look at that picture right there, that's down in the IED lab. I think that's Brother Mullins right there. It's down in the IED lab. If you see right there off to his backside to the left, you see that AK that's loaded. Okay. That was his protection down there if he was discovered while he was down there. We really thought that that whole little factory there, I call it a factory, it's just a small room, that we thought that would be rigged to blow in the event that it was discovered. So we were very, very careful about how we entered that room underneath his garage. But yeah, he had his own protection down there. It was his loaded AK right there, ready to rock and roll if he was discovered.
You know, a Marine, I'll give him credit, Lance Corporal Palmer, saved my life, because we were on Desert Storm, and I looked into this barrel, and there's a Soviet 82 millimeter mortar tube laying in there. And I go, oh, I'm going to pull this out and take it back to the battalion, you know? And right as I go to reach it, he's like, you might want to look at that. It might be booby trapped. And I kind of like, I look down at the bottom, and the bottom of the mortar tube has what's called a spherical projection. It's that round thing there where it sits in the base plate. And you could see there was a wire tied around it, and it was leading through a hole underneath the 55-gallon drum. And I'm like, holy crap. So we just marked the grid coordinate, come back and turn that in. But you're right. I mean, what Doug's saying is you always have to assume the worst, that it's going to be booby trapped.
Yeah, that they're going to be found, you know, and so they're going to leave some, or they're going to deliberately have something to be found that will come back and get you. So, yeah.
What are we looking at here, Doug?
That should
those
be
towed missiles. What are those?
Those should be surface to surface missiles right there, I believe. Gosh, you know, Rich, that's been over 20 years ago. So I'm trying to draw back some memory there, but can you?
But I'm sure you can remember the smell of this photograph. You know what I mean?
You know, the dust. Yeah, just digging and creating all of that dust. Yeah. Anytime you get out around dry dirt, that's a trigger right there for something like this.
Let's get to some of the comments here. It says, Guy says, imagine being there blowing that stockpile up. It's like a kid's fantasy blowing shit up.
Oh, it was, man. We were everybody had their, you know, back then you weren't supposed to have any cameras whatsoever outside the wire, but we had disposable cameras. There were digital cameras were really just kind of coming out. And we only had one digital camera, and that was a more for sipper type activity. So we all had our little wind up disposable cameras out there, you know, smiling a couple of miles out, getting ready to take pictures of the explosion. So we were all seeing who could capture it right at the moment.
Yeah, and Donald brings up an outstanding point. He says, now we get these knuckleheads over here inside the continental United States. So again, I go back to the stuff we're seeing blown up here could have ended up here. Yes. Guile says, did you guys ever think of using some of those explosives against the enemy?
No, because I say this, hey, I'm a gunnery sergeant at the time. So we are obviously well supplied in our arms. I don't think that we ever set any type of ambush while we were there. Now, we went on some offensive missions looking for high value targets. But as far as like I call, you know what you call an ambush, right? Premeditated murder.
That's
what an
exactly right.
ambush is. Yeah. So we never had the opportunity for premeditated murder while we were there. It was more offensive. Middle of the night, we would blow the door as engineers going into a high value target home. And, the infantry will follow right in behind us once that door was breached. So that was our extent of, using explosives. Now, if your question was, do you sit?
I think he was talking about the foreign munitions, Doug, and he thought of using those foreign munitions. Yeah. I think that's what he meant.
I'm sorry. No.
Our equipment was far better than this rusty shit in the dirt.
And more reliable, yes.
And I'll tell you another thing. I don't know if you remember this. You may have been in the Ukraine when it happened. It was early OIF 1, and they were going to do a foreign weapons shoot. So they get two. I think they were chief warrant officers. I want to say they were like ammunition officers or something, and they're going to let the Marines shoot RPGs, and the RPG blew up and killed the gunner, the A gunner, and the two chief warrant officers that were working as RSOs on the line. And after that, it was like, shut all that crap down. There's none of that, going on. Yeah, you just don't know the status.
It's been sitting there forever. You don't know the stability of it. It's some of that stuff was pretty rusted out. Now, I will tell you this: the AK-47s, every AK-47 found was brought back to, I can't remember what unit it was that was commanding in that area, the overall unit. But every AK was inventoried, serialized, and then issued to the Iraqi Army or Iraqi police. So the AKs were recycled.
It's funny you talk about that. You don't know who he is, but it was a friend of mine, Jeff's, who's on listening to today's show. I won't say who it is, but Jeff will know who it was. He had a manufacturing license, and he manufactured AK-47s, and he got an NSW contract to make, I think it was 200 sterilized AKs. No markings of any kind, no serial numbers. And he said, if I ever did that, ATF would throw me in prison for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And he had to deliver them to, I think, Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, where they were handed off to somebody, signed for, paid for, and off they went. So those are out there on the market somewhere, these ghost AK-47s that Naval Special Warfare wanted for some reason.
Yeah. The blue barrels right there, those were aluminum powder.
Ooh. Yeah.
So I can't remember how many 55-gallon drums of aluminum powder were out there, but yeah, that's some massive firepower right there. You see the Iraqi soldiers in that previous picture there. They were out there helping out.
Wearing the chocolate chip.
Yeah, wearing the chocolate chippers.
More crates. Oh, there we go. I want to say those are surface-to-air missiles right there.
Yeah. That's how we roll. That was pre up armor vehicle. All we had were high backs. So that's how we rolled down the road right there. We had the crew served weapons mounted on a tripod in the back that was bolted to the floor. And you could see the armor that was slapped to the sides of the high back had metal doors, no windows on the sides, bulletproof glass on the front. What was not taken into consideration, none of the suspension had been modified, transmissions not been modified. So now you put all this weight on the Humvee, and
squatting, see that.
We were constantly breaking down. It was a must to have tow bars on every vehicle. It wasn't uncommon to be rolling back into one of our firm bases, pulling another one. You see the little triangle shapes on the sides of the high back. These were just put up there to protect the person sitting there, protect their head from incoming rounds. You see our spare tire. We look like the Beverly Hillbillies pretty much running up and down the road. But we rolled heavy. Our convoy, when we would go from A to B to start conducting our route reconnaissance or anything, we led with a 50 cal, then it was a 240 Golf, then it was a Mark 19, then another 2 more 240 Golfs on that. So we rolled pretty heavy right there. That was our lead vehicle right there, Staff Sergeant Chris Robinson. He usually pulled a trailer with various items on it, extra items. You see the concertina on the front in case we had to do a snap ECP and start searching vehicles or create a roadblock. We did have, I don't know if you can see it on that vehicle, but we had large spike strips that we could lay across the road and throw some concertina up and shut down a road if we needed to start doing a IED search. So we kept stuff like that probably in that trailer right there to be able to block raids. We'd use the vehicles obviously, but then out 50 meters out, we would start using the spike strips from the vehicles.
And again, this is all counter mobility kind of stuff, 101. But I tell you, if I'm considering this is going to get more into the second show you and I do, Doug, or I guess at this point it'd be the third show, is I think I'm going to buy some of this concertina in rolls like that and just kind of throw it in the barn, forget about it.
Yeah.
And if we ever need it,
then
we'll have it, because that's indispensable in austere environments and things like that.
It is. And that's us getting ready to leave one of the infantry company's little firm bases there in Fallujah. We're getting ready to roll back out and go to I'm not sure if we're getting ready to start a raid sweep or what there, but we're laid it up and ready to go, and that's how we roll. Thank God we didn't hit any IEDs again, because you can see we had zero protection right there. It would have been a bad day.
We had the same thing, you guys at least finally got around to using some plate steel and doing a little up armor action. We had none of that in the Gulf War. And it was just sandbags. We sandbagged the hell out of it. But to your point, by the time you pack the Marines water, food, ammo, and sandbag the whole damn thing, you're breaking these things down left and right. They're just not designed for that.
No, they're not designed for the weight on that. It's it got to the point toward the end of the deployment, the transportation was during our briefs, and we briefed and rehearsed every single day. I did not allow a day to go by that we did not rehearse, no matter how minor the mission was. We went through full rehearsal every day, and it was at the end. It was talking about what are we going to do when the vehicle breaks down? Not if, but what are we going to do when it breaks down? Who's going to tow who? What's going to be the new order coming back into the closest place we can get until we can get it fixed and moving again.
If you go out to my F-150 right now, you're going to find a tow strap in there.
Yeah.
And I had to buy a new one because it had been, kind of getting in rough shape. But I mean, they're indispensable pieces of equipment.
Now you talk about how you made this comment back toward the start of the show, how smart the enemy was, and I think a lot of people that aren't that don't have military background, that has not been deployed, they kind of may look at some of these pictures and think of how archaic this stuff is. But the cost of setting an IED, think about that. You've got a artillery round. Okay. That's something you don't have to manufacture. That's already there. That's something you pick up. You've got some det cord, you got a small amount of explosive, and you got a firing device. So whatever it costs you to get your hands on a 155 and this stuff, we're maybe talk a couple $100, I don't know, something small. How many billions of dollars did we spend counteracting the most simple weapon used against us?
Yeah.
Rebuilding, you see our vehicles, they don't look anything like that anymore. They have the V-shaped hulls
Oh, the
that
mountain
will
ramps.
direct the blast out from them. They're built on a higher frame. The uniforms, the uniforms we were wearing there were not fire retardant. So a lot of people got severely burned with that. Even the undergarment, a lot of guys wore the Under Armour wicking. That stuff would just melt to your skin. Okay.
Yeah.
So once they figured that out, then everybody went out on with flight suits on. Okay, until they could come up with the new, it's called frog gear, fire retardant outer garment is what the Marine Corps came up with. And even the undershirts with it were flame retardant. So cost of uniforms, cost of vehicles, cost of countermeasures to one simple weapon system a farmer could put together and bury. That was it. So if we say, oh, you know, these guys aren't smart, we can go in and wipe them. No, they were brilliant. They constantly changed tactics of how it was detonated from command to remote to changing frequencies. These guys were cunning. They knew they couldn't beat us head to head. So what did they do? They quit talking on the radio. They quit talking on the cell phones. They passed their information word to, you know, mouth to ear. That couldn't be traced. So it was, they're a lot sharper than what you think. When you break it down, take all the technology away, and you take it to its most basic form of communication that you can't trace unless you're there or have an intel or have a source on the inside of where these things were going to be buried, how they were going to be used, who they were going to target. So, you quickly gained a tremendous amount of respect for the person that you were fighting against.
Yeah, and then let's not forget, as the war kind of went on, maybe even by as early as 2005, when you were there the first time, Doug, and not the last time, the first time, the Quds forces that were started supplying those explosively formed penetrators or whatever they were called, the copper shape charges that would just blow and blast in and penetrate whatever kind of armor you had on them. So, and the Iranians have a lot of blood on their hands, but again, what a simple, elegant design.
Yeah,
those copper shape charges were to kill a lot and maim a lot of Americans. So your point is incredibly well made, and I hope everybody's hearing. So don't think that if we put boots on the ground in Iran, it's going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be potentially 10x what we experienced in Iraq.
Yeah. It's the Iranians are much more well funded than the Iraqis were. So hopefully we can wipe that out pretty quick.
Yeah, let's pray. Before we leave your time in Fallujah in 2005, is there anything else that kind of sticks out to you about your time there?
It's how quickly we adapted and changed our tactics. That's one thing is, you think a lot of times, okay, hey, you're Marines, you're soldiers, you go out, you're given a mission, you go out, you do X, Y, Z, you come back, you decompress, you get ready for the next day. What we did is we took it as, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the Japanese concept called Kaizen. Kaizen is...
I am from Lean Six Sigma, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're not, kind of Google that term, but Kaizen means small change, continuous improvement every day by making a small change, no matter how small that is. So 6 months, a year from now, you've made big improvement over small steps every day. So every night when we would come in as a platoon, well, not as a whole platoon, but as the squad leaders and fire team leaders, myself, and Staff Sergeant Robinson and our corpsman, we would sit down every night and spend maybe up to an hour every night what can we do better? How can we improve our security stance? How can we improve our posture every day that we go out? So we sit down and we kind of run it like a board meeting. And we had a whiteboard and we had a flip chart, and we would sit and brainstorm ideas and then come up with, okay, yeah, we think this will work. We think this will make an improvement. Let's move the security team out further and further off the road. Let's change the vehicle, the way the crew serve weapons are set up. Let's maneuver them a little bit differently because of this potential idea. So it was like we ate, slept, digested. Everything was about being outside the wire on the road. What are we going to do every day? So that really stuck with me, of just the amount of planning that we did every day to try to improve it. Something that you would think you would see more in a business type model. And we use that model there every night as a platoon. The three shop wasn't there with us. The two shop wasn't there with us. We were sitting there coming up with it. And if we came up with something, we would take it to the three shop and say, hey, we're going to do this. Now, we were having so much success, Rich, we found 74 separate IEDs or mines during that deployment to Fallujah. 74. I've got a map on my man cave of the city, and I've got each IED or mine marked. So we uncovered 74. We were having so much success that word got back to Combat Engineer School. And I think at the time it was still at Courthouse Bay, maybe. There was communication via email. What are you guys doing? So we put together a pretty detailed email with some sketches and shot it off to Courthouse Bay. And they started implementing in their instruction at the time things that we were doing on the ground over there to better have better capability on locating.
Let me ask you, Doug, was it brilliance in the basics, or was it something different?
No, there was no epiphany. It was the devil's in the details, brilliant in the basics. It was just coming down to try to think, get yourself in their mindset. What are they doing? Why are they putting it where they're putting it? Once we mitigate that, what's their next step? They started putting them. So a dead donkey, a dead goat, those are common to see on the side of the road, bloated, laying on its side, swollen up. Hey, that's a perfect place for an IED. Cut the stomach, slide it in there. You don't think twice about driving by, a dead goat on the side of the road, a dead dog on the side of the road. You don't think twice about that. So once they started using that, okay, hey, let's sit down. Let's figure out what are we going to do? Because your safest spot was in the middle of the road, because you got the hardball, and it's harder to burrow under. It's going to take time to get the IED more toward the center of the road. So you drove the center of the road. Anything that they could put that would make you veer right or left to get you toward the shoulder was the danger area. So we talked about speed. Is it best to go slow and try to observe it? Or is it better to go fast and push through and try to offset the trigger time? So it was just a constant game of what are we going to do? And then once we get out on foot, and honestly, I felt safer. And I think I speak for the majority of the guys that I was there with, we felt safer on foot than we did in the vehicles. Because once we got on foot, security teams pushed out right, left, and ahead of us. And we had eyes, all the crew surf weapons were manned in the vehicles in trace. So I felt much safer out of the vehicle than I did in the vehicle. So it was, I guess, to recap your question, it was continuous improvement every day. You didn't go there on a mission and you were doing the exact same thing day one as you did last day there. It was a constant evolve. We evolved the whole time we were there. And that really showed me, if you're going to be great, you got to, what was Stephen Covey said, you got to continue to sharpen the saw. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You got to continue to sharpen the saw every day.
No, that's excellent, and that's so true. Definitely want to do round 2. We'll get into the width and breadth of your career. Specifically, we'll talk more about your second round in Iraq, and then we'll talk about Afghanistan and maybe some of your contracting stuff. And then I'd like to do another show with you where we just kind of speak to men, and because I think there's really nobody talking to men in 21st century. Matter of fact, we've been told we're toxic and we're poisonous and we're everything that's wrong with this world. And I absolutely couldn't disagree with it more. Matter of fact, our church is almost kind of doing a hard reset.
Yep.
And the first thing they're doing is they're speaking only to the men. So far this year, I think every single Sunday has been something geared just to talk to the men in the congregation.
Right.
Because I think that's the foundation. Once we get that squared away, then we can build from there. But we got to get that taken care of. So
yeah, I think you're right, because we're either portrayed as toxic or we're portrayed as bumbling idiots. Yeah. And if you just watch TV, I rarely watch TV anymore. My head's in a book. I'm constantly reading. But when I do scan across the TV, try to count how many strong male figures do you see in TV shows, commercials, across TV. You just, even like some of your news anchors are, where's that guy that you can look at and say, yeah, he's a good figure that, you can follow, you can emulate.
Or they're effeminate. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, they're bumbling idiots, they're toxic, or they're effeminate.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that. I don't know if it's, testosterone has been shrinking since it's been measured, I guess, in the last 50 years, 1% ish every single year. It's lowering, whether that's microplastics, who frickin' knows, the estrogen in the water. There's all kinds of competing theories on why that is, guys, but there's something going on. And so I'm going to invite Doug back, and probably round 3 or 4 with him. We're going to do an entire show on, and for those of us that are of a certain age, be a damn mentor to people,
be a mentor and be mentored. No matter how old you get, how much experience you get, you still can be mentored by someone out there that can continue to teach you, take that information and mentor. I've got a couple of guys that we don't call it mentoring, but we have a dinner once a month or lunch once a month, and we just sit down and talk about careers, what's going on in their life, relationships, their marriage, their children, and just kind of hash some stuff out and maybe throw an idea out here or there. A lot of times when you talk, they figure it out just by talking, they figure out the idea themselves. And but you got to check on each other. You got to mentor some folks, and it does you yourself so good to be able to do that. So be that strong man, be the man in the arena, and go out there and fight the good fight.
So that's just a sneak peek of what's coming down the road from Sergeant Major Rines. I'm really looking forward to it, my friend. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you so much for letting me twist your arm into round 2 and round 3 there, Doug.
Hey, God bless everybody. Thank you again. It's a real honor to be on your show, and not sure what I can pass along, but I'll pass my opinion anyway, and we'll see how that lands.
All right, Semper Fi, brother. Guys and gals out there in Warrior. All right, Semper Fi. Guys and gals out there in Warrior Nation, remember, folks, the fight is coming. Be ready.